The door-in-the-face tactic is a marketing and persuasion technique that involves making an initial request that is likely to be denied, followed by a more reasonable request. The idea is that the person being asked will feel a sense of obligation or guilt after initially saying no, and will therefore be more likely to agree to the second, more reasonable request. This tactic is based on the principle of social exchange, which states that people are more likely to comply with requests if they feel that they have received something of value in return. In the case of the door-in-the-face tactic, the initial, unreasonable request serves as a gift of sorts, establishing a social exchange relationship between the person making the request and the person being asked. By making this initial request, the person making the request is signaling to the other person that they are willing to make a sacrifice or take a risk in order to establish this relationship. The door-in-the-face tactic has been shown to be effective in a variety of situations, including fundraising, sales, and marketing. It is particularly effective when the person being asked has a personal relationship with the person making the request, or when there is a sense of shared identity or shared goals between the two parties. There are several factors that can affect the effectiveness of the door-in-the-face tactic. One important factor is the perceived sincerity of the person making the request. If the person appears to be genuinely concerned about the issue or cause at hand, the tactic is more likely to be effective. On the other hand, if the person seems insincere or manipulative, the tactic is less likely to work. Another factor that can affect the effectiveness of the door-in-the-face tactic is the perceived cost of compliance. If the person being asked perceives the initial request as being too costly or burdensome, they are less likely to comply with the subsequent, more reasonable request. This is why it is important to carefully consider the initial request when using this tactic. It should be unreasonable, but not so unreasonable that it will be perceived as being too costly or burdensome. There are several strategies that can be used to increase the effectiveness of the door-in-the-face tactic. One strategy is to use flattery or praise to make the person being asked feel good about themselves, which can increase their willingness to comply with the request. Another strategy is to use social proof, or the idea that people are more likely to comply with requests if they see others doing the same. This can be achieved by presenting testimonials or case studies of people who have successfully used the door-in-the-face tactic. It is important to use the door-in-the-face tactic ethically and responsibly. This means that the initial request should not be manipulative or deceptive, and that the person being asked should fully understand the nature of the request and the consequences of compliance. Additionally, the person making the request should be prepared to accept a no as a final answer, and should not try to coerce or pressure the person into saying yes. In conclusion, the door-in-the-face tactic is a powerful persuasion technique that can be effective in a variety of situations. By making an initial, unreasonable request followed by a more reasonable request, the person making the request can establish a sense of social exchange and increase the likelihood of getting a positive response. However, it is important to use this tactic ethically and responsibly, and to consider the factors that can affect its effectiveness.